Hello, everybody. You're tuned in to today's PIR live event. I am your host, Brent Peltola. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome our live stream viewers. Remember that you can tweet your questions using the hashtag AskPIR. Tweet those anytime during the live event, and we'll get to them as we are able during the event. I'll relay those questions to our guests, and we'll look for some interesting answers from each of them. First of all, I would like to introduce our four panelists for the session tonight. We have Anch Goyal and Amit Shear, grade 12 students and ambassadors for the Foundation for Student Science and Technology. Alina Kozma. Adelina is an undergraduate student and a published scientific author. And we have Dr. Brad Bass. He's a researcher at Environment Canada, adjunct faculty member at the University of Toronto, and associate executive director at the Foundation for Student Science and Technology. Thank you all for joining us. To kick things off, I'm going to turn this over to Amit and Anch in Ottawa to tell us about a little bit about their experience with youth science research. So over to you, Anch and Amit.
So, hi guys. First of all, thanks Brent for the introduction. So, as he mentioned, my name is Amit Shear and I'm a grade 12 student here in Ottawa. And the reason that I'm here is because I'm really passionate about science and I have the opportunity to explore that through a few different directions. So the first one is that over the past 4 years throughout high school, I've had the opportunity to do my own research, first at Carleton University in Ottawa, and then at the National Research Council of Canada and the University of Ottawa Heart Institute. And I'm really interested in different fields like immunology and chemistry, and I've had the opportunity to work with real scientists in real labs and explore these ideas, explore my research, and explore my passions, and make interesting discoveries while I'm at it. So through this, I've had the opportunity to be part of, for example, Team Canada at the Intel International Science Fair. I've had the opportunity to go to Sanofi Biogenius Canada several times, where I've had a great experience, and also the Canada-wide Science Fair and different other events here in Canada and internationally. So sometime during that research process, I really got interested also in sharing my passion for science with other people, other youth in Canada, and really inspiring and empowering their own involvement in STEM research. And that's where the Foundation for Student Science and Technology came in, because our organization is really dedicated to that cause. So as the Ambassador Program Coordinator with the Foundation for Student Science and Technology, I also have the privilege of working with dedicated students from across Canada in our Ambassador Program, and spreading our enthusiasm for science and for STEM in general, and making sure that other students from across Canada have the same opportunities that we had. So I really enjoy going about exploring my passion for science and sharing it with others using those two methods, and it's been a great experience participating and volunteering with the FSST to this end.
Thanks, Amit. Anch, you're up.
Great. So I'm also a grade 12 student here in Ottawa. We both actually go to the same school, coincidentally. So for me, my science and research sort of journey, or even career profession, you could say, it sort of started with the introduction of thinking and researching papers. So that's sort of where I started. So my grandmother was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and as my family was sort of looking into the progression of this disease, I found myself looking more into the causes and the reasons why we can, or the reasons we attribute certain phenomena in the scientific world or community to exist. And it's sort of what I feel every scientist, every youth scientist needs to start from, is like a real life connection, a real inspiration. And from there, that individual needs to read papers, continue on. And in my experience, I was able to build on my ideas, build on the connections I made between different papers from China to Brazil, here in Ottawa and Canada. And I was able to talk with certain professors. And I was able to work with the professor of my interest who specialized in this field, and my field was cellular and molecular biology. And from then on, I've been continuing to do more work, do more fundamental research, and I've been able to talk to my student peers, talk to Amit, talk to other people of FSST as well, and share the word and share the enthusiasm, as Amit said, for science and research.
Fabulous. Thanks for your thoughts, Ange. And now it's over to Adelina in Calgary. What are your thoughts?
So my name is Alina Kozma, and I'm a third-year undergraduate student at the University of Calgary. I'm studying psychology, rehabilitation, and disability sciences. And for the past 4 years, I've been involved with the Journal for Student Science and Technology as a student medical research editor, and I have been recently promoted to co-editor-in-chief. My responsibilities for this position include selecting and reviewing research papers that have been submitted by university and high school students, both nationally and internationally, leading a team of student editors to review these papers and to help the student authors prepare their manuscripts for publication. I collaborate with a team of PhD reviewers for further professional review of the papers. And I act as a liaison between the student authors who submit and this professional review board. As a past student researcher with the Hospital for Sick Children and the University of Toronto, I've conducted 6 research projects from starting from grade 7 through grade 12. Related to various topics, including brain imaging and autism and learning disabilities, and the development of technology that can help individuals with learning disabilities to improve their communication skills. And I've had the opportunity to compete with these projects as a member of Team Canada at the 2010, 2011, and 2013 Intel International Science and Engineering Fairs, and as a member of Team York Region at the 2008, 2009, and 2012 Canada-wide National Science Fairs. Even from before I became an editor for the journal, I had the opportunity to publish 3 of my research papers in the journal, and I have been very thankful to have the support of the student editors. They were very approachable, and they helped me to get my research papers published. And now, as an editor myself, I can confirm that we really have a great team of student editors who are highly qualified in the sciences. And through my position as co-editor-in-chief, I hope to continue to help the student authors to improve and develop their research writing skills and to ultimately get their research published.
Thank you for that. So over to Brad. Brad, you're a mentor of these students that work through the foundation. I have to imagine, first of all, that it's pretty daunting to work with people that are as committed and driven as these young people are, but I wonder if you can give us your perspective of youth science publishing and achievement in science from the perspective of you as a mentor.
Well, you're quite right, Brent. Daunting is not the word. I consider it sometimes humbling. I started working with youth actively probably through visiting one of the regional science fairs. And I saw the quality of the work and I was quite impressed. And I thought, how can I get these people to come work for me? So I started to offer opportunities, and slowly the word spread, and students started contacting me and leading me to create a fairly unique program that I run through a course at the University of Toronto, where I'm able to blend university students doing research with high school students doing research. That eventually led me to the foundation through their co-op program, where a few years ago I got a call from Lauren Sykes asking if I knew someone who could mentor a student in economics. And I thought, well, I have an interesting project I'd like someone to do in economics. I said, I'll do it. And we did one, that was last year, and we had an online student that I was mentoring this year, and now I'm more involved with the foundation. But it's been a very exciting, maybe 10 years doing this. I've also had a number of students who've competed very highly for both Team Canada and within Canada at the Canada-wide Science Fair. And as I said, it's rewarding, but also very humbling. But the ability to work with someone who comes to you and says, I have this idea, can you help me? And finding a way of leading them from, the first kernel of the idea to a finished project and learning with them it's just a great feeling. And it's also leaves us mentors feeling a little bit better about the future.
I'm sure it does. Appreciate your thoughts from all four of you. Wanted to get to a couple of questions that I have. Just remind everybody who's watching on the stream that if you have questions, you can submit them through Twitter using hashtag AskPIR so that we can relay those questions. Remember to give us an idea of who you are or where you're from so that we can give you a shout out. I just wanted to ask each of you, and I'll start with Amit and Ansh. I think everybody at some point in their 3-minute intro talked about competing either at Canada-wide or Sanofi Biogenius or at Intel. How important is the competitive piece of doing this kind of work as a youth scientist?
I think one of the biggest values of the competitive aspect of, I guess, what you could call the youth science fair movement right now, it's become a really big thing over the past, I don't know how many years, because a lot before I started getting involved in it, but it's become a really big part, and I think it is very important to, first of all, have that aspect of getting people motivated to do the work. So the motivation comes from you. It comes from your desire to, for example, contribute to the scientific community, advance your own interests, work with scientists who have experience if that's what you want to go into later. And then there is the competitive aspect. There's that aspect of learning about other people's work, talking to them, growing from your experiences, and figuring out what's going on outside of your world of research. For example, I've had the opportunity through my competitions to learn about research that's being done not only in biochemistry, immunology, the fields that I'm in, but also, for example, at the International Science Fair, projects in engineering and energy projects and things that I never would have thought of investigating or looking at if I hadn't been participating in these competitions. And then there's also the aspect of learning how to present and defend your research. Communication is a really big part of science. And I think that the competitions like Biogenius, like International Science Fairs, and like the Canada-wide Science Fair really give you that opportunity.
So I'm going to mirror a little bit of that, but I've always felt that the competition has never been, to the people who are competing at really high levels, has not been as important. The fact that we're able to actually communicate our work and talk with professors and graduate students and people who really know our field is sort of what makes it all exciting, what makes it all new and novel. That's what, when I go to a competition, what I'm most looking forward to isn't the potential for me getting first or second. It's the opportunity that I'll go get to talk about something that interests me with professors and other people who are just as interested in it. Of course, on the other hand, I feel that competitiveness is important, and it's a part of, I think, science in general, that competition. But that competition is only there, I feel, for you to improve yourself. So to a great extent, a lot of the judges will often say that your projects are so different, but they're also very hard because you've all done very high levels of research. And that the amount of competition there is just helping you to present your ideas, communicate in a better way, and learn from your fellow scientists and researchers.
Fabulous. Adelina?
I think the answers so far have been really amazing and exactly what I would say. So for sure, yes, the competitive nature of science fairs motivates you to really try your best for your project. And especially in scientific research, it's often the case that sometimes experiments don't work out exactly as you planned them to go from the very beginning. You encounter multiple problems along the way. Sometimes the data, they're not how you wish they might be. But because of this competitive nature, you're driven to finally realize your project. And so it motivates you to not give up.
So, Brad, I'm going to jump in with you. You've obviously worked with a number of these students that have competed. How do they use that competition then to convert it into publishing?
Well, if they've done well, it's a lot easier. But I think what helps is when you compete, you have to be able to formulate your scientific research or your technological design into succinct form for the poster. And I know Amit and Adelina, I've seen some of Adelina's posters, so I know she has a lot of experience in this. And that really helps to concretize the structure of what can become a research article, because you have almost all the components of the article right at that point. So moving from that poster, plus your own verbal presentation and hearing the questions the judges asked, does make it easier to write the article. You have a lot of it written already.
That's great.
But I just want to add something. What these guys have done in high school amazed me. I mean, I've known about Adelina's research, and she was about 14 because my students competed at some of the same fairs she did. So I was always amazed by what these people were doing. I know what Amit has done recently. I know about his recent achievements at Sanofi. But I do have a lot of students who don't compete at all. They do very good research. And I certainly I wouldn't turn away a student who just I want to let students know, yes, you can work with most mentors without being part of a competition. So it's a different type of motivation, but I don't want to discourage anyone who's just starting down this field and really just wants to maybe get started with the first proposal or the first literature review or the first computer simulation. That's really the important step is to get that first bit of research under your belt, and that helps a lot as well. Once that first bit is done, it's amazing. If the student has that mindset, that's a big motivator because they know they can do it.
Fabulous. Adelina, I have a question for you. It came through Twitter out of Ontario. What supports exist for a student scientist who wants to publish but isn't sure where to begin?
For sure. So the Journal for Student Science and Technology would be an amazing outlet for that. Please visit, search on Google the Journal for Student Science and Technology or fsst.ca for the foundation's website, and you'll find there some author guidelines and submission guidelines that my team and I have prepared together, and please feel free to send us an email or contact us, and we'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions. This journal that I'm currently a co-editor-in-chief for, we publish twice a year, once in the fall and once in the winter. And we'd be more than happy to receive your subscriptions.
Fabulous. So I'm going to move back over to Ansh and Amit in Ottawa. I think both of you talked about the value of communication. I know Brad mentioned the importance of communication as a scientist. Have you found the ability to take what you do in a poster, what you do in a presentation, and convert it into something that can be published? How have you done with that?
Well, so neither of us have actually been published yet. It's something that I'm personally working towards, but haven't achieved that goal yet. But I think it's definitely a good step. Like Brad was saying before, the process of making your poster, of putting your research into writing in the first place, the process of defending it orally even though it doesn't seem like, it seems so different. One thing is talking about your research out loud, either to people in your field or out of your field, and the other one is writing something down in a scientific paper. But I think they really are similar, because both of them you have to learn how to say it in a way, first of all, that makes sense to scientists, because you have to convince them that your work is valid, that your work is necessary, and that your work is advances science or advances the field of engineering or fits a specific objective. And I think it makes you understand better making your poster, making your oral presentation, it makes you understand what your research is about and what people will care about when reading about it in a journal. So in that sense, I think that that's a really good first step to publishing.
Yep, I would agree with most of that there. The posters, basically, when you're thinking about it, it's a congregation. It's the simplification of a lot of your work in a way that other people can understand it. And in the same way, that's what your paper does. So a lot of times, a lot of scientists and researchers will be looking at your poster when you aren't there. So a lot of times you will be presenting your work, and that's excellent, and you're able to defend a lot of the conclusions and answer a lot of the questions which are posed towards you. But when you aren't there, that poster still represents your work and what you've done. And that poster is still, if you've done an excellent job with it, communicates all your ideas and all its implications to the people who are looking at it or reading it. And in the same way, your paper is doing the exact same thing. Your paper is sharing or disseminating your work, explaining its conclusions or its implications for the future and other fields of research that are important or that it could lead into.
That's fabulous. Brad, I just want to jump back over to you. When we talk to scientists, when we're doing outreach with these kinds of events, we always are interested in what's encouraged or inspired somebody to get to where they are. So what was it that brought you into science, into the realm that you're in? What inspired you to go down this path?
I was probably a late bloomer compared to some of the other people we have on the panel this evening. It really was some engaging faculty at the universities I went to. I think more than anything, they challenged me with some fairly innovative ideas in my field. And I thought, both in a way that said, this is something new you might want to consider, or this idea that you're thinking about might be crap, and I took a broad variety of coursework, both on the science and social science and in philosophy, and it really, it was that challenge that I wanted, that really motivated me, and some of the faculty I met. So I think it really was, individuals who were doing this, and you just saw the ideas that they had in their head and what they were able to discuss. And I said, well, that's something I'd like to do. And then there's sometimes just a matter of luck. Someone says, well, here's an opportunity. Maybe you should apply for it. And if that opportunity pans out, that sets a direction. Had it not panned out, I might have been in a very different direction.
Absolutely. One of the things that we hear quite a bit, our organization supports the Sanofi BioGenius Canada competition, and the students that we work with are paired with academic mentors. And often it's hard to find an academic mentor to work with. So I'm going to start with Adelina. What's your experience been in finding somebody inspiring and willing to work with you as a youth scientist?
Mm-hmm. So it hasn't been an easy process, because when I began working on research, I was only 12 years old. And when you're only 12 years old and you're approaching a professor at the University of Toronto, it takes a little bit before someone actually takes you seriously and considers you with the necessary background knowledge to be doing that kind of research. So you really do at the beginning have to prove yourself. And what I found is that I would send many emails, and of course, everybody knows that especially university professors tend to be very busy, and it's understandable why. And so I would not receive a lot of email replies. But what I found is that if I was able to go and speak with somebody in person in a in-person interview, then they would get a better sense of who I am as an individual, as a young scientist, as somebody who is only 12 years old and yet has a maturity, I would think, that is a little bit beyond their age.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that has helped. And do not be discouraged, because again, somebody may reject you at the beginning, but then if you just continue to try to find somebody, eventually somebody will let you into their research lab.
That's fabulous. And Anshin Amit, same question for you.
Sure. So I'll start this one off here. So when I first started doing research, I'm going to mention that sending emails is the one thing which you definitely start with, and you start looking to the scientists and researchers who are working in your field, and oftentimes you don't get a reply, or there's a lot of times where they're very skeptical, or they're not sure if they would be willing to accept a high school student or a middle school student or someone who's younger than you'd say the general researcher age would be. And when we're continuing from that sort of perspective, it's challenging, but at the same time, that when you're able to communicate effectively, share a lot of your ideas and work, you often find that researchers and professors and other people are very enthusiastic as well, and they want your love for science to grow just because they have that enthusiasm, that inspiration as well. So that when that's recognized, I think that's the most important part, is that once that's recognized, people are willing to go out of their way to help you to explain even a simple concept, so that later on, those simple ideas combine into something that's complex and really helps further the field of science.
Yeah, same thing for me. So I started, like I mentioned, a few years ago, and I thought that it would get easier from there. I thought that once I had gotten my foot in the door, it would be, after changing fields, even if I had to contact someone new, they would be, oh, you have experience. Wonderful, you can do this. But what I found was that even if you have a really good idea, if you have a really good proposal, a lot of scientists or professors, I guess, it's not yet normal for high school students to be working in their lab, so they don't see it as something natural. But I got really lucky in all 4 years of my involvement thus far that I found one or two professors each year who were extremely inspirational and really willing to let me into their lab, to mentor me, to teach me what science is all about, I guess. And when you find those one or two people who allow you to do this, and who are not only willing but also excited at what you can accomplish together with them, and even independently, is something that's really amazing. So once you manage to make it work out, like I'm said, by sending emails, by meeting with them, by finding that right match, once you do get that going, it's really rewarding.
Fabulous. So we're getting close to the end of our time. I have one question that I'm going to direct to each of you, and I'm going to let Brad start it off. So what I'm hearing in this 30 minutes is that for somebody growing up in Canada, whether they want to be Josh Donaldson, Sidney Crosby, or Hawking, there's barriers that you're going to face. So how about some advice for getting past the barriers? What's the one piece of advice that you'd give to a youth scientist for moving their passion forward?
Well, I see. I'm a little bit different than some of the, I guess, faculty that Amit and Ansh and Adelina have contacted. I usually respond fairly quickly, and if their ideas fit into what I already have set up, I just say, come down. And sometimes I'm very proactive, and I'm looking for the next brightest star on the horizon. So, even my own students, when they've gotten tired of me and want to move on, and they said, I can't get a response, I can't get this position, the only thing you really can do is try to get that, one of two things: you keep persisting until it might take 100 emails till someone says yes, and you try phone calls, you try to see if other people might know a person that they can connect you with. But the other thing is, a lot of my students decided they're not going to do that. They have a sense of what they want to do, and they said, well, how can I do this at home? And they often started working on their own at home, and they were able to put something together that they could then take to a science fair. And what might amaze people listening is many of my students who went on to win both regional and national gold medals, did not work in a university laboratory. They may have worked with me, but they did the work at home. And in some cases, they had no choice. They just live in very isolated areas. They couldn't get to a university. So what they taught me was, and what my own students teach me almost all the time, is sometimes there are real limitations, but the biggest ones are when you say, I can't do it because the plan A is closed. So my advice would be, if plan A is closed, then look at plan B.
Mm-hmm.
Adelina?
I think that one of the greatest barriers to innovation for youth science is lack of support in the homeschool and in the home and school environments, and also lack of awareness about the opportunities that is available to these young students. I was very fortunate when I was in grade 7 and 8 that my science teacher, Miss Mickelstein's in Richmond Hill, Ontario, she introduced me to the world of science fairs. And without her, I might not be here today. I might have not known about all these opportunities that I later took part of in my later elementary and high school years. And I think especially as a young scientist, it's the support that you get from your school and the support that you get from home, like your parents. I mean, they have to make all these compromises to help you to get a board, some kind of board, on which to present your data, to present your project. The teachers at school, they have to be willing to accommodate different exams that you're writing, especially when you're in your upper high school years. It's the type of thing where to really be able to have the time to invest all that you can into a research project at this age, you need to be able to have the support of others around you. And first of all, you need to know that these opportunities are available. And I have friends from when I was in elementary and in high school that I would talk about my research to, and they did not even know that these competitions or that this journal exists. And I think it's really important to spread awareness that these opportunities are there, and that if you have trouble getting started, or you're not sure exactly what path to take, that there are resources and there are people who are more than willing to help you.
Thank you. Amit, Nanch, something quick?
Yeah, so I think that Brad and Adelina really covered the whole getting into doing science really well. So I think I'll focus briefly on when you're actually in a lab and doing the research, what barriers you can encounter. And I think one of the biggest things that's happened to me countless times over these years is your experiments don't work. And it's really easy to get discouraged by that. It's really easy to say, you know what, it's not working, I have to give up. But the thing that all scientists who are later in their careers find out is that, yes, there are many failures in the lab. There are many times where things go wrong and you can't figure out why they do that. But what you have to do is you have to go beyond that. You have to think critically, think about what you can do differently, or even if you can't figure out what went wrong, because sometimes it's simply impossible with the resources that we have to figure that out, figure out what you can do in order to circumvent that problem and in order to maintain your objectives while taking maybe a different approach, or just spending more time on it, persevering. And that's one of the most important things that I've learned through my years, I think, is that you just keep on going, and if something doesn't work, you try something new, and you just don't get discouraged by your failures. You look forward to the next success.
Fabulous. Nanch?
Something me reminded me of is that we have a saying in our lab, and that's the science doesn't happen for you. The science happens, and you have to be there at the right time to catch it. And that sort of gets to the crux of a lot of what it is. So first, you have to have that interest in that subject. Then you need to find a way of expressing that interest. And then once you're really exploring that subject or that field, you need to really be there and try to take advantage of every single opportunity, every single support you have. And even then, sometimes it doesn't work out. And you have to keep progressing, keep moving forward. And when you get there, you're able to really showcase all your work. And that's what research and that sense of achievement at the end that's what we're all striving for. That's what we're all looking for as researchers.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. So unfortunately, that brings us to the end of our 30 minutes tonight. I want to thank each of you for your time and your insights. We very much appreciate it. I'm sure the viewers appreciate it, and I thank the viewers for joining us. Just wanted to remind everybody that the next PIR live event is on May 18th, when we'll discuss recycled materials and solar roads with Dr. Susan Teig, civil engineer from the University of Waterloo. For more information about the journal, you can go to journal.fsst.ca. And good luck in publishing. Thank you to our panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.